Look at her pretending she's busy again. My sister's laugh cut through the dining room, loud enough to land on every plate, every glass, every pair of ears at the table. A few people smiled automatically, the way people do when they're trained to laugh at the same jokes over and over. I felt my shoulders tighten, but I kept my face neutral, eyes lowered, hands wrapped around my mug, like it could anchor me to the chair. Relax, Lily added, waving a hand. It's just one exam. My kids actually need you. My dad didn't even look up. He slid his phone across the table toward me, the screen already open to my exam schedule, the dates circled in red like a crime. Calm and final, he said. Cancel it, family comes first. You can retake exams, your sister can't retake motherhood. Everyone nodded. Someone even murmured, that's true, like it was wisdom, not convenience, like it was generous. Something inside me went, very, very quiet, not angry, not loud, just still, like a door closing somewhere deep in my chest, because this wasn't the first time my life had been paused for hers. It was just the first time they'd asked me to erase something that had my name printed on it, my future stamped in black ink on an exam schedule I'd carried for months, like a fragile promise folded into my bag. Hi everyone, I said automatically, my voice soft, trained. I'll handle the kids. I always nodded. I had learned early that nodding made things easier. Easier for them, harder for me, but that part never made it into the conversation. Lily leaned back in her chair, satisfied. See, Malene gets it. What she didn't get, what none of them ever got, was how much it costs to always be the one who gets it. The house smelled like pancakes and baby lotion, and the sharp sting of disappointment I'd learned to swallow without making a face. Lily started listing schedules like she was reading instructions off a box. Nap times, snacks, which Carty kept the youngest calm. My dad chimed in without looking at me. Make sure you don't leave the house. We don't want any surprises. Surprises, as if I'd ever been unpredictable. I've carried the baby monitor upstairs, each step heavier than the last, and closed my bedroom door behind me. The room was quiet, familiar, small. I sat on the edge of the bed with my phone in my hands, staring at the exam hall address, glowing on the screen like a secret doorway. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from clarity. I packed my bag slowly. Calculator, student ID, the blue pen my professor once said brought good luck, even though I didn't believe in luck anymore. Just timing, courage, and how long you could hold your breath before choosing yourself. Downstairs, Lily was already reaching for me when I came back down. She pressed the baby monitor into my hands like a medal. You're such a lifesaver, she said warmly. I don't know what I'd do without you. I smiled, a perfect, practiced smile. Of course, I'll stay right here. They left 20 minutes later, convinced my world had shrunk again to fit neatly inside their plans. The front door clicked shut, and for the first time in my life, I didn't stay where they put me. I slipped on my shoes, picked up my bag, and whispered to the empty hallway. Just this once, I choose me. Outside, the air felt different, sharper, like it was watching. Somewhere between the front steps and the street, I realized this wasn't just an exam I was walking toward. It was the moment they'd never forgive me for. And I hadn't even done it yet. The bus smelled like cold metal and someone's cheap cologne. My knee bounced non-stop, not because I was late, I wasn't, but because I kept waiting for my phone to explode in my hand. For Dad to realize the house was too quiet. For Lily to notice the baby monitor still sitting uselessly on the table. For someone to finally see the gap where I always stood. My phone stayed silent. Outside the window, the city slid past in gray blocks and wet pavement. Students climbed on and off the bus, clutching folders, whispering formulas, living inside futures no one had tried to cancel for them. I pressed my student ID between my fingers like a shield dotted a red light. My phone buzzed. Dad, where are you? Dad? Lily just called ... The kids are crying ... Don't do this, Malene. My throat tightened, but my hands stayed steady. I typed nothing, not yet. When the bus stopped near campus, I stepped down into air that smelled like rain, coffee, and something. Sharp and awake, my shoes splashed through a shallow puddle, and I laughed under my breath. It came out broken, unfamiliar, like I'd forgotten how. The exam hall buzzed with hundreds of voices, nervous and alive. I found my seat in the third row, middle exit, where I'd planned weeks ago. I set my bag down, and my phone lit up again. Mom, your sister is in tears. Mom, how could you leave when they needed you? Mom, this isn't who we raised. That one hurt. Not because it was true, but because it was almost true. The invigilator cleared her throat. Phones off. Bags under your chairs. I slid my phone into my bag, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure the girl beside me could hear it. For a second, guilt reached for me. That old reflex. That old leash. Then the papers landed on my desk. My name was printed at the top. And suddenly, I wasn't thinking about crying toddlers or angry parents or Lily's perfect life. I kept holding up like scaffolding. I was thinking about everything I had built. Quietly in the corners they never looked at, pens scratched, pages turned, time moved forward without permission. Halfway through the exam, I felt lighter. Not happy. Not safe. Just real. When it ended, my hands were numb, my head spinning, and my chest felt like it had finally taken a full breath after years underwater. Outside, sunlight broke through the clouds in thin gold lines. I pulled out my phone. 30 missed calls, and one message that made my stomach drop. Lily, if something happens to my kids, this is on you. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then I opened my camera, turned it toward the campus sign behind me, and took a photo. Blue sky, solid letters, proof. I didn't add a caption. I didn't explain. I just sent it. The replies came fast. Mom, are you serious right now? Dad, you chose this over your family. Lily, I can't believe you'd be this selfish. Selfish. That word had followed me my whole life, like a warning label. I was terrified to earn, and now, with one photo, I finally had. My chest burned, but something else rose with it. Calm, steady. I typed one sentence. I chose what you always told me mattered. Then I put the phone back in my bag and started walking, not knowing yet that this was only the beginning. I walked until the campus thinned out and the buildings gave way to quieter streets, my legs moving on instinct while my mind lagged behind, still replaying the sound of my sister's voice, my father's certainty, my mother's disappointment, sharpened into accusation. Behind me, life kept going. Cars passed. Someone laughed too loudly outside a cafe. A street musician played a hopeful song that didn't match the knot in my stomach. My phone buzzed again and again. I didn't look. By the time I reached the bus stop to go home, the adrenaline had drained out of me, leaving a dull ache behind my eyes. That was when I realized something that scared me more than their anger. They weren't furious because I disobeyed. They were furious because I proved I could. Because once I stopped showing up on command, their control had cracks in it, and they could feel the air leaking through. One message finally cut through the noise. Not loud, not angry, just precise. Dad, come home. We need to talk about what you've done. Not what happened. Not how are you, what you've done, like I was a problem that needed correcting. I stared at the screen, my heart sinking as recognition settled in. I knew that tone. It was the voice he used right before everything in our house turned into my fault. And for the first time, I wasn't planning to apologize my way out of it. The house was too quiet when I walked in. The kind of silence that feels rehearsed. My dad sat at the dining table, hands folded. My mom stood by the sink, arms crossed. Lily was on the couch, eyes red, phone in her hand like proof she'd been crying for an audience. No one asked if I was okay. Dad spoke first, calm in a way that felt dangerous. Do you have any idea what kind of position you put your sister in today? I set my bag down slowly. You told me to skip my exam. Mom cut in, sharp. We told you to help your family. I looked at Lily. You never asked. You assumed. Her mouth trembled, but her eyes hardened. Because you always say yes. Dad leaned forward. And today, you embarrassed us. Your mother had to leave work. Lily had to rush home. Do you know how that looked? That's when it clicked. This wasn't about the kids, it was about inconvenience, about image, about how my absence reflected on them. I passed my exam. I said quietly. No one smiled. That's not the point, Dad replied, shaking his head. Not the point. The sentence that had ruled my life, my hands curled into fists. Then what is the point? That I stay available. That I stay small enough to fix your schedules. Mom's voice cracked. Why are you making this into drama? We needed you. Lily stood up, and now Dad's saying maybe you shouldn't be around the kids anymore, because clearly you don't care. That hurt more than yelling. Not just blame, but punishment. Something fragile inside me snapped cleanly. I cared enough to raise myself, I said. Because you were all too busy choosing her. That is enough. Dad snapped, pointing toward the stairs. You owe your sister an apology. For a moment, muscle memory took over. Years of training urged me to nod, to soften, to fix it. But then I saw it clearly. If I apologized, today would become proof that my future was always negotiable. No. The room went dead still. Dad's expression shifted. Not to anger, but calculation. If you're going to live in this house, he said slowly, you follow this family's rules, and families make sacrifices. Mom added softer, but no. Kinda, I let out a tired laugh. So my education is optional, but Lily's convenience is law. You're acting like a victim, Lily snapped. No one forced you to stay here all these years. That one landed hard because it carried just enough truth to cut that. Dad stood and walked to the hallway cabinet. He pulled out an envelope and slid it onto the table. My name was written on it, my scholarship paperwork, the documents I'd begged him to mail months ago, the ones he promised were already sent. I didn't submit these, he said evenly. I was waiting until you showed more commitment to this family. The room tilted. You used my future as leverage. We just wanted you to prioritize what matters, Mom whispered. Something cold settled in my chest. This wasn't about babysitting. It never was. This was about ownership. You don't get to decide my life anymore, I said, picking up the envelope with shaking hands. Then don't expect our support, Dad replied. I looked at all of them, the people who raised me to be useful, not loved, and finally understood what I'd been fighting. I turned and walked upstairs without another word, my back straight, my hands numb. Inside my room, I locked the door and slid down against it, breathing like I'd just run miles instead of crossed a hallway. That word echoed in my head. Ownership. Opened my laptop, logged into my school portal, and there it was. Application status, incomplete, documents missing. The deadline glared back at me. Midnight, 3 hours away. I wiped my face, scanned every paper in that envelope, uploaded files, typed until my wrists ached. When the confirmation screen finally appeared, I pressed my forehead to the desk and whispered, please. Outside my door, I heard Lily's voice. She's being dramatic. She always does this when she doesn't get her way. I smiled through tears. For once, I wasn't doing this to be understood. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. This is the university housing office, a woman said. We received your emergency accommodation request. Emergency. I hadn't meant it to sound that final, but I didn't correct her. Yes, I said, I can come tonight. When I opened my door with my backpack on, my dad looked genuinely shocked. You're really leaving? I met his eyes, calm and clear. I already left. And this time, no one told me to come back. The dorm hallway smelled like detergent and cheap pizza and life starting over. Someone was laughing behind a closed door. Someone else was crying openly on the stairs. It struck me how ordinary it all was, how the world didn't pause just because mine felt like it had cracked in half. I dropped my bag onto the narrow bed, sat down, and let the silence wrap around me. For the first time all day, no one needed anything from me. My phone lit up. Lily. Double quotes. Dad says if you don't come back and apologize, they're cutting you off completely. Her message read, no more help, no more home, no more family. I stared at the word family until it felt unfamiliar, like a word from another language I used to speak fluently but had forgotten. My thumbs hovered. Then I typed, you already chose who matters. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Again, you know I didn't ask for this, Lily replied. You could have just helped, like always. Like always. The expectation sat there, naked and undeniable. That my existence was a service. That love meant availability. I typed, deleted, typed again, and finally sent, loving you shouldn't mean losing myself. Minutes passed, then my phone buzzed again, this time from Mom. If you walk away now, don't bother coming back. Don't call us when you fail. Don't ask for anything. Something inside me snapped. not loudly, not painfully, just clean and final. I set the phone face down on the bed and sat there, realizing something terrifying and freeing at the same time. They thought this was punishment. What they were really giving me was permission. 2 weeks passed. Life didn't magically fix itself. It got quieter, harder, real. I learned the sound of my own thoughts without interruption. I built routines from scratch. Morning coffee in a chipped mug, late nights in the library, a part-time job that paid just enough to make me feel capable. Every day, I waited for the guilt to swallow me whole. It didn't. One afternoon, during a study break in the dorm common room, my phone rang. Dad's name filled the screen. I almost didn't answer. Almost. Your mother's car broke down, he said, his voice smaller than I remembered. We need someone to pick up Lily's kids from school. Lily's stuck at work. We thought maybe you could help. Just this once. Just this once. The same words they used every time they asked me to shrink. I closed my notebook slowly. Around me, students whispered over textbooks, building futures no one had tried to hold hostage. I have class, I said. He sighed, frustration creeping in. Malene, be reasonable, family. I know, I replied gently. Family comes first. Double quotes, silence. Mom took the phone. Her voice was tight. So you're really doing this? Punishing us? I looked at the calendar taped above my desk. Exam, dates, housing approval, my work schedule, my life, finally visible. No, I said, I'm choosing. Her voice cracked. After everything we did for you, and that's when it came out, steady and unshaking. You did what benefited you. I did what saved me. Another pause. Dad's voice again, rougher. So, you won't help. I thought of the little girl who learned early that love meant being useful. Then I thought of the woman who finally understood that love shouldn't cost her future. Of course, I said softly, I won't. My mother's breath hitched, not in anger this time, but realization. I ended the call, set the phone down, and opened my notes again. Not because I was angry, because I was done sacrificing tomorrow to fix their today. Outside, the dorm window caught the late afternoon light. Somewhere down the hall, someone practiced a song badly and without shame. I smiled to myself, a small, private thing. I finally understood something I'd been chasing my whole life. Revenge doesn't always look like shouting. Sometimes, it looks like peace.